Thank you guys for joining me. Would you guys like to introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Denele Hughson. I'm the Executive Director of Grow Pittsburgh.
Hey, I'm Rayden Sorock. I'm the former Director of Community Projects at Grow Pittsburgh.
And today they're going to answer some questions. Today we're going to be talking about the GRC's 10th anniversary and basically what it means to Grow Pittsburgh. The first question I have for you is how did you hear about Grow Pittsburgh?
Rayden, you go first. You've been there longer than I was.
I was working with Blackberry Meadows Farm back in 2009 as an intern, getting my farm experience, and I think that we sold it at May Market, sold seedlings at May Market, and Grow Pittsburgh was also selling seedlings there. And I remember it was like, oh, go scope out what they're selling, so we know what to sell too. That's how I first heard about it.
I first heard about Grow Pittsburgh through Faison when we still had an edible schoolyard there, and I did some volunteer work with a former job that I had. And I knew about Shiloh. I had a friend who worked at Shiloh 11, 12 years ago.
And if you mind me asking, how long have you been with her?
I've been with Grow Pittsburgh going on 9 years now.
I was almost 12 years when I left last year.
And when did you start working at Grow Pittsburgh? And was the GRC already established when you guys started working there?
I started in 2012, and at that point it was not. But we hosted that food policy symposium back 2013, and they just hosted another one earlier this year. So it's kind of cool that goes in tandem. But basically, out of the conversations where a lot of people from the city, all interested in food growing and policy stuff, was talking about how great it would be to have some kind of buying club or ways for urban growers to access a lot of the supplies and tools that farmers are able to get in bulk, and then just a way to reduce. Just needed to do, not everyone needs to have a mower in their garage, but if they can rent one, they use a couple times a year, then that works a lot better in terms of sustainability. And so I think it just, 1 year later, it got kicked off. Yeah.
So I started as Grow Pittsburgh's Education and Outreach Coordinator, helping connect the farms to the communities that we serve and running our apprenticeship programs at that time. So it wasn't connected directly with the Garden Resource Center through the work that I was doing, but that was in 2015, and just really doing a lot of outreach and community work and trying to make sure our programs were reaching our communities of color. And then from there, became our Director of Farm Education and then Executive Director. The GRC was already established when I got here. They used to make all of us take a GRC training so we all know how to use it and work the GRC.
There used to be a lot more staff, pulling shifts here for sure.
What made you guys join the GRC?
I think, in a lot of ways, when I first started, it was a great way to. I was working a lot of shifts at the GRC, so I was getting to know kind of the back end of it, and I was also supporting a lot of the back end work kind of more generally. But as being a member makes a big difference because you can also see how, on the receiving end of the supplies and programming, how well does that work. So it's actually just really helpful to work here and be a member. And basically throughout the whole time I was at Grow Pittsburgh, I was supporting the creation or the operation of the site. So and then since then it's just been really great to know that I can get stuff that I might need for my own garden or other projects I'm working on, and then be able to recommend it to other folks who need this kind of stuff.
Every staff person at Grow Pittsburgh gets a GRC membership, so it's just an extra benefit that we can use to grow food in our own houses. I use it for my parents' house. It's really just a great way for me not to have to go and find all my compost, topsoil, and all the things that I need to just do the small growing things I do at home.
How has the GRC impacted your gardening experience?
I want to say that it's really, it's really helpful for me because I'm not growing a lot at my house. I'm growing some herbs, and I do have a really big flower garden, so I don't need to have I don't need a tiller at home for a regular basis. I don't need some of the larger equipment that we do have here. just makes it easier for me to garden at home and like be able to do that, especially when I have small children and elderly parents and I don't need as much help moving things around. It's a really great benefit.
It's been a really great way to try out a bunch of different tools that I might not have otherwise tried out. Like like the brush trimmer, the like half mower, half weed whacker is my favorite tool here. So great for really tall weeds. It works so much better than a lawnmower when stuff is really tall already. But it's really nice. Yeah, it's so much fun.
I don't mow my grass nearly often enough. Yeah, I come and grab that thing a lot.
Yeah, it's really great. And so I think like it's been a great way to try out a lot of different brands and styles of the equipment and see like, hey, this particular one's kind of junky, but this other one, oh, this is really the nice one. So it gives me a chance to kind of try something out. If I was going to buy something for my own, and I actually did end up buying the same kind of battery operated mower that there is here, but it was nice to get a chance to use it, see what kinds of things might be more susceptible to breaking, and then decide to make the investment afterwards.
What would you add or change at the GRC?
It's evolved so much over the years.
It has changed so much over the years. I think the amount of time that we're open now is amazing. Yes. Actually having a full-time staff member dedicated to the GRC has been a game changer for how we do operations. Like I said earlier, Grow Pittsburgh used to make all of us learn how to run the GRC. Yeah. Even I was like, I'm like, I don't work there.
Yeah. I think one of the original ideas was like, oh, can we make it like more volunteer run? And in a lot of ways, I like that it was like there were a lot of really awesome volunteers that put in a lot of work and still put in a lot of work to make the space feel more like it's community owned and it's kind of taken care of by the members in a lot of ways. And I think that piece of it is really important. But I think we also learned over the years how important it was to have like designated, paid, consistent staff that was going to be holding the bottom line basically, and then helping support all of those volunteers. So that's one thing that's changed over the years that I think I'm still interested in just seeing how much more engagement there can be around volunteerism. I'd love to see, you host a lot of Grow Pittsburgh events here. Are there other kinds of community events that smaller groups might want to host here? And that might be kind of like gardening clubs and other stuff like that.
That's a great idea. I mean, right now we have over 500 members, so it's kind of great job, Charlie. And it's really, what does that next phase of growth look like? If we were continuing to grow at the same rate, how are we, again, having enough materials on hand for everyone who needs them? Do we have the tools that everyone needs here? How can we expand our reach in a way that's supporting growers all throughout Allegheny County? We're here in the east end of the city, but there are people in the west end who've never heard of us, people in the north who've never heard of us. How are we really supporting those growers? Because really, everyone in the city of Pittsburgh and Allegheny County and our region should have the right to grow their own food. I always hate when people say like everyone grow their own food. It's very expensive to start your own garden. So the GRC is here to make sure that those startup costs do not affect you. You can be here is pay what you can, pay what you want, and making sure that opens that accessibility to more people is a goal of mine moving forward.
What can the GRC do to make more of a difference in the East End or Allegheny County? I bet you just basically
keep it going.
What about you, Rayden? Do you have anything to add to that?
I think, well, I guess maybe jumping off of like, how can the GRC location be a space where other groups might be able to host things here? But I think, there's so many garden clubs throughout the county, and there's a lot of like community gardens, and so maybe there's a way to support plant sales at some of these other groups' events, or kind of bring the GRC in part to a lot of other places, because you have such a good experience with like bulk ordering and making the cost pretty low, so that it would make sense for like a compost distribution at a community garden with their neighbors or something like that, to kind of jumpstart that for other local gardeners.
Maybe like a GRC mobile thing.
Yeah.
I think about that too. It's like, so we have Garden Dreams over in Wilkinsburg, which used to have like bulk materials, so like leaf compost, other things. How can we make sure that that's continuing to happen there? What does pop-ups around the city could potentially look like? what does another location look like? How are we partnering with the city? How are we partnering with the county? Like to really expand the reach of gardens. I do like the idea of a bulk buying club, but we do some of that with local urban growers. How can we expand that to more people that's not too burdensome on the staff?
Right, because I feel like there's a big difference between like there's the large scale, you know, business focused growers and farmers around, and there's kind of like your standard kind of backyard gardener, but there's a lot in between that. There's like very small business landscape folks that are just, someone with a lawnmower who goes around neighbors' houses, and this can be really helpful for a kind of a very small group, like a single person business like that, as well as community gardens. And obviously there's a community garden membership, and a lot of community gardeners are getting supplies through here. But I wonder if there's,
Maybe this is a way to get things delivered directly to the garden.
Yeah.
Like we're doing some of the ordering. It's like there's more ways. Like how do we expand sustainability funds in conjunction with the GRC? How are we expanding our seedling sale in conjunction with the GRC? So really, we have some great ideas that are in the works for the future.
And the last question I have for you guys is, where do you see the GRC in the next 3 years?
Rayden's
okay.
I already tapped out.
I did tap out. So I'm not responsible for bringing these high flying ideas into reality. But I do want to shout out to when we were 10 years ago when we were first doing research, we looked at a lot of different tool lending libraries around the country and around the world, because there were kind of like a few strong, small but mighty ones of these groups around. There's so many more tool lending type organizations like this one. And one of the best ones I've seen is in Baltimore. It's a Station North tool library. And they have this big warehouse space. They offer all these classes on like how to build a birdhouse, how to do refinish your floor, and then they have all the tools available for you to do that kind of stuff. And I'm not saying you need to necessarily go into other types of supplies beyond gardening, but gardening and backyard and yard projects could be a pretty big set of tools and supplies. And so I think a dream of mine would be to see some kind of like permanent year-round space where workshops and all kinds of tools for even a broader number of kinds of projects you could do, for like cutting all your lumber for your own raised beds, or learning how to install a deer fence and having all the materials for that kind of thing. So I don't think I get their emails anymore, but they're
amazing.
Pretty cool. Cool.
I've seen your website. That is actually a pilgrimage that I plan on taking after the GRC is closed for the season.
That would be great.
Because I would definitely like to see the GRC sell raised beds, or the way to sell raised beds in some eventually, because it's a place that can be such a benefit for people in community gardens and gardens alike. I've definitely get a lot of questions after the raised bed workshop about.
Yeah, totally. What do you think? Do you want to?
So in the next 3 to 5-ish years, it's like I've been saying, it's like, what does our next step look like? What does another potential location potentially look like? How are we expanding our reach throughout the county to make sure that everyone has access to materials that they need? Is that more of a permanent space? I don't know right now, but it's really, we're going to be going into our next strategic plan. We're going to start the planning next year, so we're really excited on what it can look like. I know it's been almost 5 years.
Wow.
So we're really, really excited what that can potentially look like, and working with the team here, and working with everyone, working with members, maybe even region community and advisory committee, to really see what the community wants, because one of Grow Pittsburgh's values is community participation. So I want to make sure that we're being responsive to the community's needs.
Well, I would like to say thank you to Rayden and Denele for sitting down with me at the GRC. We are celebrating 10 years, September 27th. So please look forward to the GRC newsletter to see this link that'll be uploaded. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.